welcome to yet another Expat. This is episode 79, and we've made it to the end of the year. This episode is not a Christmas special or anything like that. It's just a delayed episode after more than 2 weeks of being unable to get something out there. I don't know how much sense it makes to give justifications on the why or promises about the future, but my excuse is the same as last time. Work plus moving plus having a child equals very, very, very little available time. But let's not dwell into the past. Thanks for tuning in. Let's do this thing where I keep saying what's been on my head in the past few weeks. And hopefully you find that informative, entertaining, interesting, or just the lowest form of one-way communication to know if I'm still alive. Now, we're deep in the winter. I'm recording on the 26th of December. Christmas just happened. It is incredibly cold in Berlin. We had a few good days in the past, but now we're getting a strong drop in temperature. Yesterday night was minus 9 degrees. That's a lot of minus degrees. But it's this time, it's the peak, it's the winter markets, the trees having no leaves. Is the time where the busiest aisle in DM is the aisle that they have the vitamins. Like there is always so much traffic there now, just people standing in front of the hundreds of vitamin options offered in Germany, trying to figure out what could give them a chance for a tolerable winter. And I haven't started my vitamin D yet. Perhaps this is where I should put all of my problems. But I did read that Berlin is incapable of producing vitamin D. We are incapable of producing vitamin D in Berlin from October until April. Even if we wanted to, even if the sun was there, the angle of the sun is just not good enough. Which means that I am now 3 months into my vitamin D deficiency, and that gives me a little bit of comfort, because maybe it's not all my fault. Maybe I can blame Berlin a little bit. But it's not all so bad, you know that I'm your designated reminder for when the time changes, when to move your clocks and all of that. But in case you forgot, I'm also the one to remind you when the day gets bigger, when the day gets smaller. Now, if you live in the northern hemisphere, the day has been getting smaller and smaller and smaller up to the depressing effect of the sun going down at 3 o'clock, which is what is happening now. And you may be wondering, when will that change? When is the peak? Have we been through the peak? Is the day going to be getting less and less, and until when? So the answer to that is we just passed the peak, and that always gives me a lot of comfort. The peak was the 21st of December. That's when we had the shortest day and the longest night. That's when the sun went to sleep at the earliest time. So, now that the scale has tilted, we are now incrementally adding more daylight. I think it's about 1 or 2 minutes a day. But this is good news. You've made it this far. You held this long. So now that piece will start getting better. And I didn't say that, but I hope you're having a good time. I hope that you are having a relaxed time with not too many to-dos, enjoying good food and hugs and warmth and all of the nice things that the winter break has to give, because we need a break in winter. Winter is hardcore. Always remember, put on your good socks, not the ones with the holes. No pairs that are not missing, because you will likely find yourself invited in some house where your socks need to be exposed. Now is the time to know your good pairs from the bad ones you wear the rest of the year. Now is the time for your nice socks to shine. Another small intro type of news, I can say with pride that I am sleeping better. My Oura ring, the smart ring I'm wearing, brought this update like a month ago or so, where it introduced a thing called the sleep depth, which is how much sleep you should be having that you haven't had, and it accumulates and basically tells you, hey, this is how many hours you are missing from your general sleep in order to bring a balance, which was a very tough one for me. I am Greek. I have PTSD from debt. I don't want any debt, whether it is sleep debt or any other type. A guilt-inducing way to help with sleeping better. So I have to say that currently I slept 9 hours yesterday. That's my absolute best of the year. My sleep debt is now 0. I have recovered. I am ready. So take that, you stupid ring. I owe you nothing. In a completely unrelated topic, how many Pokemon cards do you have? I know you're all millennials there. I look at my stats. I know that most are women, but the Pokemon cards were finding their way everywhere. And I do still have an album with my best cards from back when I was 6 to 10 years old. A very proud album that I hope one day will make me read. But in order to do that, you need to grade your cards. You need to send them somewhere and then they get a condition score. And depending on that, they can be valued. I haven't done any of that. I don't think the condition of my cards are good, but I like to brag about the fact that I have, a golden Charizard and some of the first cards. So if I grade them and they have a bad grade and they are worthless, then I cannot brag anymore. So I keep them in that album. Now, the cards that didn't make it to the album, that was a huge pile, I think my mom just threw away. So thanks, Mom. If you still have them, you can sell them, because that will make you probably a small fortune. But the craziness of Pokemon cards has continued and I haven't kept up. I was a child that had my cards, and right now I know that there are collectibles and so many items that got out, but there were also so many new Pokemon that were coming out. This is when I gave up. In the first, it was 151, and then there were 150 more, and then 150 more, and I lived through the entire craziness of Generation 1 of Pokemon. I lived through the entire craziness of getting a Game Boy with no colors, and then with colors, and wasting so many batteries, and my parents had to buy rechargeable batteries and the extra light to have at the top to put light on your screen. I learned my English through Pokemon. I had little plastic tapes at school. Just the whole thing. Now fast forward to last week. I went at a flea market here in Berlin, and it had a lot of different stands. And the ones that are from people selling old stuff. In Greece, we would say palyadzides, like people who go into old houses and take what's there, and then they're selling everything from old porcelain dishes to postcards to even photo albums of unknown people and some furniture, and that type of the flea market. Not the hipster one where people make organic bio cotton knitting pullover for your doodle dog. The other one, the raw one, where you get a bronze ashtray shaped like a dog from 100 years ago. So one of these guys in that flea market had a Pokemon card stand, and they were selling Pokemon cards inside the packages. It's a package of 10. You don't know what you get. And I thought, ooh, some Pokemon cards this guy's selling? Does he even know what they are? And I grabbed these and I looked behind to understand how old are these packages to see what they're worth. So 2 of them were for 2024, which is garbage. And one of them was from 2017. So I used ChatGPT and I asked, hey, how much is a package from this series of 2017 cost today? ChatGPT says, ooh, buddy, those go from 20 to 30 euros. I asked the guy and he's selling them for 3 euros. And I'm thinking, I got you. Here's where I make the good bucks. I'll just grab 2 and see how this goes. I say, can you give me 2 for 5 euros? I even wanted a discount. He says no, thinks about it and says, I can do 10 euros for 4 packages. And I do that, and I'm holding these 4 packages worth 20 to 30 euros each. And I'm thinking how smart I am and how this guy knows nothing. And I'm very close to just giving another 10 euros to get another 4 packages, but I decide to walk a bit more around the market. Now, as I do that, and my lizard brain starts thinking a bit more, I turn the package around and I wonder, is there a chance this is fake? I take a photo, I put it on ChatGPT, and I say, hey, is this package fake? ChatGPT goes, this is 100% fake. Starts telling me about how the packaging looks wrong, how some details are wrong, how some of the text that describes the package is taken from a different series than the series the package claims to be. Then I look even closer, and in the back it has so many spelling mistakes. And then I realized that there is a huge market of just counterfeit cards and cards that get printed now and packaged to look like old cards and that whole thing. And of course, I've fallen into a scam. Of course, I'm not gonna make the buck out of that street vendor who's selling everything from his German cutlery to vintage lamps and machinery. Of course, he got me. I thought I'm smarter. I got scammed like a little child. And as I continued walking around the market, I realized how many people were selling these fake Pokemon cards just as an extra. Like they would have a booth of, I don't know what they would have, and then chup, on the side they would also have a few of these Pokemon cards. So what did I do? Did I go back to confront that guy? No, he never claimed he has the real things. He just had some cards there. I liked them. I bought them. It would make no sense. He knows what he's doing. So I opened the package. I left it there. This market is done in a playground. Maybe some kid finds it. The second package, I left it somewhere else. And now I have two packages that I carry in my pocket every single day. And I don't know what to do with them. I think I'll just give them to some kids in the metro. But I need a setting where I don't look like a perv when I do it. And will it give them fake joy? Yes, but maybe they never discover that their joy is fake, Maybe they play around and show their friends and put them somewhere and, I don't know, they wouldn't go all the way. They're kids, their attention span is like 2 seconds. So this is what I'll do. And next time I should follow my first rule for flea markets. Always make a full round of the whole flea market before you decide to do anything. Because if I had done my round, I would have seen that many more people are selling these cards, and I would have likely concluded that there's something wrong there. Well, all right, let's pretend this whole thing was an intro, and let's dive into the main topics of today's episode. Radiohead. I am the biggest fanboy for Radiohead. I don't know how it went to be. I think when I was 13, 14, you would get the song Creep, of course, it was everywhere. Now everyone hates it, which would lead you to Karma Police and then Street Spirit, and then maybe you found an album or two. And this is how it was for me back in the days of pirating music through LimeWire and trying to collect different albums one by one. And I really liked Radiohead. It's also the teenage times, they can go different ways. Mine was still going in many different ways, but one of them was enjoying listening to depressing music and using my inline skates to go down on the street and go, play video games or do sports. And music was a big thing. And I remember in 2007, I was 15 years old when In Rainbows came out, which is one of the most beautiful Radiohead albums. I would argue that every album is its own journey. I think that their discography is a wild journey through music, one that is only comparable maybe to something like Pink Floyd or the Beatles, because every album Radiohead has put out is very rich. It has a lot of depth in terms of the music and of the lyrics and of the innovation in terms of what you put out there. When Paranoid Android came out, which was one of the most iconic songs, this was a 7-minute song with almost no chorus and huge bridges, like very long music bridges. And it had every unconventional part to not become a hit. It was following none of the norms. And this is something in a lot of Radiohead songs. The lyrics are difficult to figure out. They're playing a shit ton of different instruments. They play in offbeat rhythms and in this purposefully almost alienating melodies. There are some videos that explain why the music sounds depressing and optimistic at the same time and how they navigate themselves around musical patterns to make that happen, but I won't go into that much detail. Back to 2007, In Rainbows is out. For me, this is an album of someone who is in love with life and death and everything. I love the energy that emerges like a blossoming flower out of this album. So I want to buy it, and how lucky am I that the music stores that still existed, where you could go and buy CDs and you could go and listen to those headphones in the new things that were coming out, there is a package coming out that has In Rainbows and the previous 6 CDs all in one package. So this is all the way from Pablo Honey to the bands to Kid A, OK Computer, In Rainbow. Which one am I forgetting? Hail to the Thief, yes, and Amnesiac. So there was this bundle of all the CDs, original, in one box to celebrate the latest release. I remember reading about this in some sort of free press. That was a thing back in the time, a free press every day next to the metro, Athens Voice and LIFO in Greece. Glorious times. And I went straight to the Virgin Megastore somewhere in the city center, close to Syntagma. I think I paid something more than 100 euros at the time, which was a lot, maybe 150. And I got the box with every single album that had been out, besides the King of Limbs. That one wasn't in the package. And this is where the journey started. I've listened to this so many times. And of course I wanted to see them live. I wanted to see them live so much, but being 15 at the time, it wasn't easy. The only time Radiohead had come to Greece was in 2000. I was 8 years old. As I said, I was very occupied with Pokémon at the time, so I didn't get to see them. And I was waiting for my chance. And that happened 10 years later. In 2017, Radiohead announced a tour in Europe after the Moon-Shaped Pool album was out. After 10 years of not having an album, they did that. So I knew I had to go see them, and I knew it needs to happen no matter what. At that time, I was in the army, the Greek army, mandatory service. They've increased it since then, Jesus Christ. And when you're in the army, you're not a citizen anymore. You don't have an ID. They take your national ID. You only have an army ID, so you kind of stop being a person. You stop being a citizen in the conventional way. You're a soldier. If you fuck something up, you don't go to court. If you're in the army, you go to the army court. Like everything is, it's like you're in Stranger Things, upside down. But I had to leave the country. I wanted to go see Radiohead. The closest place they were playing was Italy, in Florence. And I just had to make it happen. At the time, I was 40 meters beneath the earth in the Greek Pentagon, where I was doing IT stuff and saying hello to dead cockroaches every day. We literally had a person coming daily with a CO2 meter just to check if we have enough oxygen down there. But I was contributing a lot. I had a really good reputation down there as someone who is actually bringing a lot of impact. And I may or may have not found a very interesting seminar in Italy, one that I really needed to participate in because it was very important for my computer science degree, and I may have asked for a special army clearance to allow me to travel, making many generals very annoyed that they have to go through this process because it's not an easy process. I may have had to also pull some strings to try and help them see the importance of this scientific seminar I really, really had to attend. That happened to be in Florence. That happened to be at the same dates as the Radiohead concert. And I remember, after everything was almost done, going for a special security briefing in the office of a army person who told me, listen, your ask has been approved. We will allow you to travel to Italy for these 3 days. Remember, when you are in Italy, you are not a citizen. You are still a soldier of the army, which means that no matter what happens, you must not get arrested. if the police arrest you, then technically it's like a diplomatic episode. So if something goes bad, he literally said this, if something goes bad and they want to arrest you, you need to run to the embassy. This is what he said, that I just need to obey nothing, run to the embassy and just go like Quasimodo's Leon, what's his name with the humpback in the Disney movie that was shouting, asylum, asylum, going into the Notre Dame. I didn't have to run to the embassy. I did manage to go to Italy, and I did manage to see Radiohead perform live. It was from a great distance, but it was still one of the most magnificent times in my life, a very transformative journey as well for personal reasons. And I also had a beautiful, you know what, I'll just say this, I'll give tribute to this man. I wasn't planning to. I wanted to talk more about this Radiohead concert, but here's what happened in the previous one. So 2017, I'm 25 years old, solo travel to Florence, living in a cheap hostel, wanting to see Radiohead there. And I didn't have someone to hang out with. As I was standing on the crowd, this was in an open space, so the ground was just dirt, and it wasn't really nice or easy to sit there. But standing didn't make so much sense because we were very far away from the stage. And I found this lovely Italian dude that had a big blanket down. He was by himself. He was definitely 15 years older than me. And somehow, I don't remember how it started, but he offered me a seat. Then we sat down there together and we talked a little bit about life. We enjoyed the concert so much. And this is something that happened to this concert as well. The people who are there enjoying this music, there is a weird sense of unity that you feel having been through it. I'm not sure where I was left because I had to open the door. But I think I was talking about this Italian dude in the Radiohead concert that I hanged out with the entire night. I was probably talking about this sense of closeness or togetherness or unity that I felt both times I've been to concerts from Radiohead. And it's almost like, I don't know, if you've been through something together with other people, then you have something that unites you. And I've never felt that so strongly with music than with Radiohead and these people. So I hanged out with that Italian guy for most of the night. We talked as well about, I don't know, I was asking him how his life. He was an adult and I was still a young person. So he was telling me how he's running a bookstore in a small place in Italy. And I thought, this was 2017. Oh my God, this guy will go out of business. Bookstores, who even reads books anymore? But he said that because of the kids going to school and the school year, there is good seasonality and he has a young child. And it was such a big thing that his wife let him come see the Radiohead concert because it was once in a lifetime chance for him. And he had to drive several hours. And he was just very grateful, and he did feel like he was in a different phase in life. I was enjoying a lot of freedom and no responsibilities at the time. And I remember when the end of the concert was coming. Now, this was a massive place with thousands of people. It was, I think, the 2 songs from the last that it was playing, and he told me, hey man, listen, this has been wonderful. Thank you for the night. We also shared food and water and smokes and stuff. And he said, hey, listen, man, I'm very sorry, but I actually have to go now because if I leave at the end, I will hit the biggest traffic you can imagine. All these people will want to get their cars and we're so far away from the entrance. It's going to cause me a massive delay. If I leave right now, I beat everyone. I beat the traffic and I can come home to my wife and the baby. But this is great for me. I'm very grateful I got to experience the concert, and losing the last song, listening to the last songs while I walk out is the price I have to pay for the stage in life I'm in, and that's totally fine. Yeah, he was very grateful of his wife letting him be there. And so he left. I still remember that interaction vividly, and I, in a weird way, I got 10 years later to experience Radiohead in Berlin, and I was the guy with the child. I was the guy that had to make an arrangement to be unavailable for that day and feeling grateful for my girlfriend who's able to take care of the baby alone and me having this opportunity to be by myself and enjoy the music. So I hope this Italian guy is doing well. I hope he still has a bookstore. We never kept contact or exchanged any other information besides the concert time we shared. But I got to see Radiohead this year when the tour came out. I was over the moon, very excited. Also wondering if they would be able to perform at that level because the vocals of the songs, the complexity of the rhythms, the instruments, it's not an easy thing to do live. And music nowadays, everything is in a studio and pre-recorded, and there is not a lot of musical performances, like a technical difficulty performances in a live stage is usually, I don't know, they have these things figured out. But Radiohead played some stuff that is, it takes a lot of work to do them in a studio, and it takes even more work to reproduce it live on stage without any errors. So I was wondering how the whole thing is going to be. I tried to get tickets. I was sure I will get some by registering to the website. Long story short, no one got a code. I didn't get a code. The people I asked to sign up didn't get a code. If I knew it would be so difficult, I would have done more. But I was fortunate to find a ticket through someone at work. I didn't care what type of ticket it was or how much it cost or where it was seated exactly. I just grabbed it. And when I went there, I was very surprised to see that it was a seated place. I knew that much. I was very grateful to be able to sit in a chair. But I did adulting all the way through. So I arrived 2.5 hours earlier. I waited in line to get in. I waited 1 hour at the merch store line so I could buy myself some merch because this is what's happening. This is my Christmas gift for myself. I got the merch, then I wandered around in the arena. I bought myself something to eat. I bought myself something to drink. Got myself hydrated because I needed to be hydrated for the concert, but you don't want to have to pee through the concert and miss something. And I don't know, you just need to plan things a bit differently and care to provide yourself a nice experience. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event, so I wanted to optimize for it. So here's a few impressions of the night. First of all, the Uber Arena was completely packed. I've been to other concerts and to some stand-ups there, but I've never seen the entire arena all the way to the booths that are at the very top, because it's a pretty high building and it has seats all the way to the top. It was all full. This was a view that I've seen, I don't know, in Harry Potter when they played the Quidditch, or I don't go to football, so I haven't been at a, I don't know, final of a big league to see an entire stadium completely filled up, if it even gets filled up. But the view of the arena being flooded with people everywhere you could see, from the bases where very down at the bottom where everyone is, a sea of people all the way to the first seated positions, and then things start climbing up in height. But it was almost like a 360 sphere filled with people. And feeling the energy of such a big crowd is also very, it has a vibe I cannot describe. And I haven't felt it many times because I don't go to football or to big events. But the power of the crowd, or the feeling of the crowd as a whole, is very interesting to experience. And now for the concert itself, I almost felt I was in a trance the entire time. It was so surreal to see it unfold in front of my eyes and to listen to my favorite songs and to just experience and be there, that it was very difficult to be present. I think they did amazingly in their performance. Tom York makes a very honorable effort to hit the vocals as best as possible, and at the same time, I guess, protect his voice, because they were playing one day after the other non-stop. And he had a throat infection. But the amount of things they had to do on stage, from singing to grabbing a guitar to then having a piano song to then having a different guitar, the entire band was switching around in a 360, almost, I think, center. So the concert was happening at the center of the arena and all of us were around it. And because they were changing positions and instruments, You get to see every single musician play in front of you at some point. And I was wondering, how do they pick these songs? I guess they are also trying to make it work like a marathon. Like, you cannot put all the songs that are on the piano first and then have all the songs that you're standing with the guitar. You need to make a combo. You need to be using your voice hardcore for some songs, then maybe sitting down on a piano to rest a little bit, then grabbing again a guitar for one of those songs, and you need to interchange between to make it work. So you need to song manage what is feasible for the people changing spots and instruments. And overall, I was thinking, if I didn't have my siblings were visiting, I was still working, we just moved apartments, we have the baby. And I was thinking, if it was a little bit calmer, I would have bought more than one tickets so I can see the show in a row. I would buy 4 tickets. I would go every night to see the show. Because also it's a different show every time. It's a different performance. The songs were mostly the same with a few changes in its live they were doing. But yeah, I got to connect with my younger self. I tried to connect with my younger self that was listening to all these songs and the different times in life, and to make something, try to get a little bit deeper in it, or to connect with myself. And it was a very, very beautiful night. I do think I got to connect with myself, recognize a younger part of me, an earlier version of me that I still carry in me, and overall a beautiful experience. Now, I'll nag about one thing, a bit of a social construct that happens in these spaces, and it's in my notes because I wrote it down, but it's not in my aftertaste. My brain bypassed that, but when it happened, it was annoying, and it's in my notes, so here it goes. So we were in seated positions, and the seated positions, you know how they go in a stadium, every person behind you is at a bit of a higher level. Now here's what happens. If the person in front of you stands up, you see nothing. That's the whole concept of how these seats work. So if someone stands up, the only thing you can do if you want to see the show is to also stand up. So we have this weird fragile, a very fragile balance of empathy. If no one stands up, everyone is enjoying a great show because everyone has an angle of view that you see the entire stage, you see the musician, you see everything. But if for any reason someone stands up, you have zero view. You need to stand up, and then the person behind you needs to stand up, and then you have the entire section just standing up. Because the way the seats are constructed, the angle of view you block if you stand up is so big that people don't have a choice. It's a domino. So it does take some strong social unity and empathy to keep that order of things. If we're all going to see perfectly sitting down, why stand up? We paid seats so we can sit, right? Well, unfortunately, there were many parts of the seated areas where people were standing, not because they wanted, but because someone stood, and then it's a domino. And it was destroying the whole thing. I was just looking at it, wondering what is the right way to solve it, because it needs to start from the first person. And the biggest irony is the very first person that stands up doesn't even have an obstacle. It's a mystery why they stand up. Because they're the ones who started. Someone needs to be the first person standing up to start blocking the view behind them. So as I was looking at that, people stand up from excitement, right? This is why it happens, not to see better. But in front of us, there was a couple, and the dude had this awareness. He knew all of these things. His girlfriend did not. So his girlfriend would get excited, and she would stand up, completely blocking the view, and then everyone had to stand up. And I was lucky because this girl was on the front left of mine. I had the dude in front of me. And the dude would sit at his place, but every once in a while, this girlfriend would lift him up, literally grab him from the hands and lift him up, and then the entire row would stand up behind him. We're talking about, 30 people behind him one by one. All the line that extends all the way to the back of the arena, everyone would have to stand up, the entire row. And he understood the dynamic, but he didn't want to disappoint his girlfriend that was making him stand up. And I could see all of that in his body language. So this dude would reluctantly stand up when she would want him to be together and move around. And then after some time, he would sit back down, maybe have a quick glance back, maybe in a way of apologizing for blocking everyone's view. So he knew what was happening. He had the awareness. She was in her 20s. She did not give a fuck. She did not notice. She did not understand. But he knew, and he was too shy to tell her, hey, when you stand up, all these people have to also stand up just to enjoy the show. But he knew if he says that to a 20-year-old girlfriend of his, she's probably going to think he's lame. So he never did. All of that I know through observation, okay? But he knew. And this guy, he had balding hair. He was way past his 30s. He had glasses. He was a nerd. His balding hair, these things in life, they make you wiser. There is no way he didn't realize the whole dynamic. It's like a programming function. It's like a circuit. You notice these things. She stands up. Everyone stands up behind her. 1 and 1 makes it 2. He knew the whole thing, but he was too weak to teach her a lesson, causing all of us to stand up and down whenever she had a taste. So this was the concert. I know that Radiohead are trending again. I can see them more around, and that feels nice. Radiohead themselves were a bit surprised that they are again having a bigger wave of people listening to their music after all these years of not performing, not releasing new things as Radiohead, because they've done things individually. And one of the musicians asked his children, how come people your age listen to us again? And he said his teenage kid said, well, teenagers are depressed, Dad, and you play good depressing music, so what did you expect? So I don't know if a new Radiohead wave is coming. If it is, I'm welcoming it. But what I did enjoy was the injection that my Instagram feed got after the concert, because I started getting a lot more Radiohead content, especially the live performances from this tour and interviews and all sorts of things. And this was such a nice surprise. I'm welcoming this type of content. I was very happy to have my algorithm just slapped a bit towards Radiohead direction. And with this, I know I promised I give you a lot of news. I have very cool tech news that are happening, but this episode is getting ridiculously long. So I think what I will try to do here is to sum this up, still a long episode, and then make a part 2 to release out during the holidays, because who knows if I get another chance to record. So with this, I will wrap it up. I will give a big thank you to whoever is listening. If anything resonates, leave a comment somewhere, give a like, a subscribe. Click the thing you are not clicking. You know what the thing is. Depending where you are and what you're doing, there's something you could click and make this show get a small boost. So why not do that? It's Christmas. Do a good deed. And maybe one day someone gives you a pack of fake Pokémon cards in the train. Until then, I will see you in the next one. Ciao!